Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In this video, we're going to tackle a few things, right? Different takeaways, different strategies that I think work best for what I see and when I'm training sales reps. How to negotiate. I think that's one of the hardest things out there to do. How do you do it? Well, from my experience, most salespeople think negotiation starts when the prospect says, can you lower the price, or after you give the pricing and you sit there all quietly. Well, actually, that's all wrong. Negotiation starts the second the prospect feels uncertainty. So you want to be elite, right? That's why you're watching these videos. Well, elite salespeople don't negotiate with desperation, okay? They negotiate with certainty, control, psychology, and emotional intelligence. You know, newer salespeople or people who are learning the sales game negotiate price, and elite salespeople negotiate certainty. Write this down. This isn't part of the modules we're going over, but it's very important. And from our perspective, I think elite salespeople always have one thing in common when it comes to negotiation. That's certainty, timing, risk, emotion, identity, ownership, and commitment, right? So that's why two people can sell the same exact product and one discounts while the other one closes full price. Okay, I actually see it on the daily. It happens all the time. So in this video, I'm actually going to teach you high-level negotiation frameworks that most people never learn, right? A lot of these frameworks I'm going to teach you today, you have to buy pretty expensive sales programs, right? Well, I've went through a lot of sales programs, and I've read a lot of sales books, and I've done the actual action of selling and closing and negotiating many times. So I'm going to give it to you for free. How about that? So what I teach is real negotiation psychology, the kind of skill that can change your income forever. And if you master this and you stop sounding like a salesperson and start speaking with authority, welcome to elite sales at that point, right? So remember, authority does everything. So you're going to master that today. Well, let's start with the module. Boom, let's start with it. So module 1, write this down. The mindset of elite negotiators. Okay, the mindset of elite negotiators. Well, the first thing that you need to understand that negotiation is not combat, it's alignment. Okay, so before you probably thought of it where you're kicking and you're beating objections, and I even have a video where I'm karate chopping objections, right? I mean, and so to speak, that is a perspective, and that is something you need to do, is beat and karate chop and box and fight the objections, but that's objections. This is negotiation, okay? So it's not combat, it's alignment, right? And the newer salespeople, the people with the wrong perspective on sales, who see it as selling, right? Amateurs, so to speak, enter negotiation emotionally. Professionals enter strategically, right? So most salespeople think, how do I get them to buy? How do I get them to buy? Well, the master salespeople think, how do I get them to make a powerful decision? Okay? That mindset shift right there, that changes everything, because needy energy destroys negotiation leverage. Okay? The person who needs the sale loses control. That's why elite closers are calm, certain, and detached from outcome. Not because they don't care, but because they understand that certainty transfers, right? If your voice tightens up when price comes up, you already lost authority. So understand that negotiation is emotional leadership. The prospect is looking for certainty in uncertainty, right? And if you become uncertain, their fear multiplies. So let's go to module 2. Let's kind of shift out of that mindset there. Module 2, why most salespeople fail negotiations. Write that down. Why most salespeople fail negotiations. Well, most reps negotiate too early. Okay, the prospect says that's expensive, and immediately the rep starts defending price. Well, that's a big mistake, because expensive usually means one of 5 things. Okay, they don't see enough value. They're afraid of failure. They don't trust themselves. They need emotional certainty. They want control back. Price is usually not the real issue. Price is the smoke. Emotion is the fire, right? Elite salespeople negotiate the real problem. That's why they ask questions instead of panicking. All right? So let's move to module 3. I call this the elite negotiation framework. The elite negotiation framework. Now, this is important that you master this framework, okay? And now in this framework, we're going to have 3 beautiful steps. 3 beautiful steps, we'll call that. Write that down. 3 beautiful steps. All right, so step one is slow the conversation down. The best thing to do is move like you're in water. I want you to think like that. I need to move like I'm in water when I'm negotiating. Most salespeople, most people selling their accounting services or solar, cars, whatever you want to. Oh, my stuff works for every industry, right? But everyone normally speeds it up during pressure. But elite closers slow down. Remember, I got to move like I'm in water. Write that down. Move like I'm in water. So when someone objects, pause, okay? You need to always give some space when someone gives that initial objection, initially objects, right? You need to pause, and that silent creates authority. And I need you to then say, I hear you. Simple, calm, controlled. I hear you, right? You want people to feel heard and understood. Okay, so I hear you. So help me understand what specifically feels expensive to you. Notice the tonality shift there and everything. So you got to use your tone as a weapon sometimes, especially if you're over the phone, those kinds of things. And in person even, man, you got to really use the, hey, so like John, you can even put their hand on their back. Hey, help me understand what specifically feels expensive to you, right? Use the expressions, all of that. So right there, that question is elite. It's simple, but it's powerful, right? Help me understand what specifically feels expensive to you. So because now what happens is they're going to reveal the real issue. So step 2, write this down. There's 3 steps to this. Step 2, isolate the real objection. Isolate the real objection. This is where professionals separate from amateurs, okay? You ask. This is what you need to write down, okay? Besides the investment itself, Janet, is there anything else holding you back today? What happens is this isolates, right? Now you know if it's trust, timing, the spouse, business partner, fear, overwhelm, commitment, money. You never want to negotiate blindly, right? Elite negotiators diagnose first. So let's go to step 3. Write this down. You have to reframe the value, guys, right? You never want to defend price. We don't want to do things like that. We're not defending our price, right? You don't ever defend price. You should bold and underline that when you write it down, okay? Or if you're using a notepad, whatever, font it up, make it bigger, okay? I don't defend price. Professionals expand consequence. So let me give you an example of what that kind of looks like. So the prospect might say, hey, listen, Nathan, that's a lot of money. What most salespeople, let's say you're selling a program, most salespeople would say, but look at all the modules, right? You're going to learn this, this, and this. But someone with a high sales standard would actually say something more along the lines of this. Now, you just translate this word track with the same point for whatever industry you're in, right? So just check it out. I understand, but let me ask you something. What's the cost of staying where you are for another 2 years? Talk to me about that. Boom! What happens is now they're comparing price, right? They stop comparing the price. They were comparing the price. And what happens is they start comparing the futures. All right, remember, elite negotiation shifts the comparison. There's always 2 routes they can take, okay? You have to make a pick one sometimes. Well, you want to stay stuck or you want to go here, make more money and change your future. So we've got to sell the outcome, future pay, give them future pain. That leads me to the next section, and that closes that framework right there. This is a new module right here, the future pain framework. The future pain framework. So for me, working with me, and if I've trained you, you understand that, hey, yes, he's all about pain and future pain because pain drives change. So there's no other. That's the number one thing. We'll just leave it at that. That is the number one thing, right? I can have pain in the past, pain now, or pain in the future, right? So anyways, write this down. The future pain framework. So one of the best negotiation tools in the world is future pain. Humans move faster to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So here's an example for you. You already told me your current situation is exhausting you. You said you're tired of feeling financially stuck. So if nothing changes over the next 12 months, what happens? That question creates emotional consequence, right? Now the negotiation is no longer should I buy, it now becomes, well, I can't afford not to change. That's elite. That's how you want to roll, right? Let's go to the next module, Module 5. Module 5, okay? The takeaway framework. The takeaway framework. This is advanced, so do not abuse it. When used correctly, it's deadly effective. okay? Here's an example for you. You know what? This may honestly not be the right time for you. This creates psychological contrast, right? Because humans value what feels scarce. Now suddenly they start selling themselves. This is my favorite part. I literally love when people sell themselves. Just ask them a couple questions. You think selling is telling, and actually it's just questions. They sell themselves. But that only works if your tone is calm. That word track right there, that kind of takeaway. That tone, if you got to have a calm tone, right? And genuinely mean it. You're detached from outcome. That's huge. That I would say, as a salesperson, even if you have low numbers, even if you're running your firm and your firm is struggling and you know you're fighting for the deal, doesn't matter. You need to be detached from the outcome. You will get better results that way. That neediness bleeds through your tonality, and especially for this framework, it will take it away. Well, you just don't need it. It doesn't sound like it's right for you. Like that's not going to work. Okay, so just remember that. Genuinely have to use it when it makes the most sense. So let's go to the next module, Module 6, negotiating without lowering price. Negotiating without lowering price. You have to protect the value. I would say most salespeople discount way too quickly because they lack certainty. Instead of lowering the price, I would just say change structure. So kind of flip the deal around. It just depends on what industry you're in. But I would never lower the price. Just change the structure of what's going on and let them know that we can start with a more basic plan. But you've already built up so much value and you sold the outcome so well that when you use those words, well, I completely understand where you're coming from. We can just get you started with a more basic plan. Well, that kind of shifts them out of there. So never immediately cut the price. Just kind of change what's going on. And you can flip things back to ROI a lot of times. That's always the best thing. So never lower the price off rip. There's a lot of layers you can work through, and that's the number one thing. Let's go to Module 7. The emotional mirror technique. The emotional mirror technique. One of the highest level negotiation skills is mirroring. I believe it's called neuro-linguistic sequencing. Okay, I call it being a chameleon, right? One of the highest level negotiation skills is emotional mirroring. So, and the word speaks for itself, gosh darn it. The word speaks for itself. You just have to match their emotional state while leading them upward, okay? If they're overwhelmed, do not come in all hyper. I mean, I think when it comes to energy, you just always want to be a little bit above the client, nothing too insane. You need to lower your tone, slow your pace, make them feel understood, guide with certainty. People buy from people who emotionally understand them. That's why charisma matters so much in negotiation, right? And I always say, especially in negotiation, in the whole sales presentation that you gave, one ear is listening to make them feel heard and understood. The other ear is downloading data to fill them out so you know how to solve their problems and help them. All right, so let's go to Module 8. Let's go to Module 8, Elite Questions that Control Negotiations. So here are some negotiation questions, okay? You can just write these down. They're pretty simple. But I think you're starting to learn that sales isn't telling, right? It's asking questions. So what happens? Let's start right here. First one, what happens if you wait? Talk to me about that. My thing that I always say is talk to me about that when you ask powerful questions. Okay, so what happens if you wait? What would solving this problem be worth to you? Do you feel uncertain about the program or uncertain about yourself if you're selling programs, okay? That hesitation that you're feeling, where do you think that's really coming from? Well, you don't know if they work unless you ask them, right? So audacity is huge. Well, if you build good rapport with someone, generally you can ask them consultative questions, right? So is the issue truly money or fear of making the wrong decision? Is the issue truly money or fear of making the wrong decision? Those are impactful questions. Those questions create control. The person asking the question controls the conversation. I need to be in control of my deals. It's weird, the prospect's controlling your deal. Who works there? Whose business is it? Makes no sense, right? So perspective is key. Identity, frame yourself is key. How do you generate perspective? You have to identity frame yourself. So if you have a certain identity, then you'll behave a certain way. You have certain perspectives, right? So if you see yourself as an elite firm owner, then you need to be an elite closer, an elite salesperson, right? And if you see yourself as a salesperson, you're going to come across as salesy. So you need to see yourself as a master closer, and then you'll do all the things outside of work that come with being a master closer, which is you never stop learning. You can have endless conversations at that point. So anyway, back module 9. This is going to lead me to where, why did I go on that rant? Well, this is why. So that leads me to the next module, module 9. Write this down. The real secret of negotiation. The real secret of negotiation. The highest level of negotiation is the identity. The identity. Understand that human beings, based on who they believe they are. All right, so if you are an elite closer, elite salespeople help prospects step into a new identity. They don't help them buy a program. They don't help them buy their bookkeeping service, okay? Instead, what they say is, you told me you want to become the type of person who wants to build financial freedom for you and your family. That version of you, what decision would they make? That's deep psychology right there. You're not closing a transaction. You're helping someone become someone new. So I'll leave you with this, my final message of the day. A lot of people think negotiation is manipulation, and it's actually not. Manipulation benefits only you. And elite negotiation benefits both people. That's why the best closers in the world feel confident, calm, and ethical. Because real negotiation, guys, it's just leadership. Just think about it. You're just leading the person across the finish line who already needs the help and you have the service or the product that can change their current situation. So as long as you just stop chasing sales and you start leading decisions, that's when that income changes. That's when confidence changes. That's when your life changes. And remember this, the best negotiators are not the loudest, but they are the most certain. So if you want more elite level sales psychology, closing frameworks, client acquisition strategies, specifically for accountants, bookkeepers, tax professionals, CPAs, subscribe to the channel. Check us out at universalaccountingcenter.com. Remember this, technical skill makes you competent, but sales skill makes you unstoppable. So I'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day.